So if we even look at, for instance, what FFK wrote about, the Obidients recently, you can see that, this is not just about P2B. This is not just about today. These people are ready for change. It's a mindset now. It's an idea now, right? It's something that hopefully, I wish and I hope, truly, that we now become, that this is now opposition to established politicians or the political parties of the mindset that we can do something. No, we've been helpless. I can tell you, we've been helpless. Remember when we knew that there was a time we knew that there was no way that any other party could oust the PDP from federal government. We knew that. And then the APC did it, and we're like, oh, wait, so this is possible. And now we know that there's no way you can oust, a party without having the structure, the one, that word has been being used, anyhow by people. So, but, things happening now shows that it's doable. So if you look at the kind of grassroots mobilizations going on, whether it's in the north, Kaduna, Katsina, Borno, Bauchi, in the south, Port Harcourt rally happened yesterday. It happened the past week also, Owerri. This week, you can see that human beings are at least interested in showing up, for P2B and Labour Party. Candidates are now springing up in the north, in the south, everywhere to represent the Labour Party in whether it's National Assembly or governor or different branches of the government. So I believe that that's why I want us to reference this FFK's letter, what he wrote about his missive about the obedience, and let us explore part of this. Was he just trying to be patronizing to the popular movement? Because FFK surprised me on this one. He usually just twists things like, P2B is darkness, I am light. God, he likes like God is with me. I don't, he's a cultic member. He conspiracy theories and all those kind of crazy things. That's what FFK likes to write about. But for the first time, I'm seeing him, maybe this is what OBJ saw in him when he made him, a minister. This is intellectual. This is true. This is, this is, visionary kind of. So, Ebere, you read this letter, right? Did you read this missive? Did you take a look at it?
So, like you said, and like I've told you before, or like I told you before, I'm actually surprised that FFK wrote something like this. I'm not the biggest fan of FFK. Now, I'm the biggest fan of the way he speaks, how he combines words. I think he's very brilliant, right? When it comes to that, I think he went to school, Ingo school. You understand? And he learned how to speak, and that is wonderful. But I'm not the biggest fan of how he reasons, right? And sometimes some of the things that he says, without thinking about, how it can affect people, some certain things are childish that he says. Certain things can bring about division. Sometimes it's about how this group of people, it might be tribe or religion, something that would divide groups of people, along religious lines and along tribal lines or ethnic lines. That's part of FFK I'm not a fan of. So I was really surprised that he wrote this. And he said things that even his own colleagues in the two other political parties, the APC and the PDP, things that they themselves have not been able to think about. And even if they think about, do not have not been able to come out and say, right? And they were very interesting. I had to go back and say, is this really FFK that wrote this? Yeah, so certain points are really clear to me. First of all, is that he acknowledged that obedience are everywhere, and he put everywhere in caps. He said those that are the supporters of Peter Obi, the Labour Party presidential candidates, are known as Obidients, and they are everywhere. Those of us in the larger political parties like the ruling APC and the opposition PDP treat them with contempt and ignore them at our own peril. And this is very important to me because I see, I mean, the Obidients are really loud on social media and they come for you if you attack them, right? And sometimes, some of them don't even need any provocation to go and attack someone else. You see them, there are people amongst them who have insulted other people. There are some of them that are just, fanatical about the whole thing. Yes. But at the same time, there are people in the PDP and APC who just uncouth human beings that are just running around, running wild on social media and on the streets. But I have seen a lot of attacks coming from supporters of Tinubu and supporters of Atiku, right? Also directed at Obidients and directed at Peter Obi himself. So saying that Obidients are the only ones who treat others with contempt, which a lot of people have been saying, is very wrong. It's not correct. He, from that statement, has shown clearly that there are elements in his own party and the opposition party who treat Obidients and their principle with contempt also. Because I see that those people in PDP and APC, they come out and they claim victim after going to touch the tail of the tiger. You cannot claim victim for what the tiger does to you. All right. Going forward, he says they may not have structures or elected representatives in the legislative and executive arms of government, but they have ideas and vision coupled with a clear ideological and philosophical bent, which can and will endure for far longer than mere political platforms and structures. Clearly, he's really saying that they are not just merely rabble rousers. These people, have ideas and they have vision. And even when there is no P2B in that movement, that spirit is still going to carry these people, on. They're still going to find someone else who's worthy, of their attention and worthy of their support to carry on that vision. And what is that vision? He referred to it down the line, and I'll get to that. That vision is to clear out the old political order, right? That has gotten Nigeria nowhere, to be able to form another political order, of course, in their image, like FFK has said, that are going to be accountable to the people, that are going to deliver to the people, and that they are going to take Nigeria to where it's supposed to be, both domestically and internationally. All right, because right now we have all-round problems, both at home and internationally. Nigeria is not what it used to be internationally under Obasanjo, for example. All right, so going down, he then said that most important of all, they want to see the back of those of us that are in any way associated with the old order, or that have been in government or the corridors of power at any point in time over the last 62 years. That's what those guys want. And then he made reference to the groups of people who carried out the bloody French Revolution between 1789 and 1799, right? He said, like the Robespierres, tiny cabal of French revolutionaries, they are led by a small cell of intellectual and idealistic hardliners and are bolstered, girded, and supported by a volatile, massive, and increasingly dangerous support group and power base who threaten violence and hurl insults at their perceived detractors at the drop of a hat, and as a consequence of years of pent-up anger and frustration. The Nigerian masses have pent-up anger and frustration. And they are not just the members of the Obidient movement. You have people that are supporting Tinubu, and you have people that are supporting Atiku that have pent-up anger and frustration. The only problem, the only thing, the only difference is that these people, the Obidients, are saying, we are not going to continue with these old people who have been around the corridors of power. Now, to be fair, Peter B himself has also been around the corridors of power, both as a governor of Anambra, right, and part of the administration of Goodluck Jonathan. However, in him, right, people say, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. People can easily look at you and know where your heart is. He has kind of like been able to distinguish himself in the eyes of Obidients, distinguish himself from these other politicians, who have been in the corridors of power since 1999 or even before that, in the case of Atiku. All right. And they see in him someone that they can put all their hopes in, who has some sort of connections, right, already in the political circles, and someone who is going to deliver for them. So their pent-up anger and frustration, they're channeling towards, through this guy. Like Peter B himself has said, the Nigerian people are running for the presidency through him. And people are saying that even if he doesn't want it, that he must collect it. So it's not just about Peter B. It's really about, the anger that those people have been able to rally around. FFK goes on to say, if they ever get power, many heads will roll, and many of today's and yesterday's leaders will run into exile or go into hiding. This is what makes them so threatening, and I repeat, those of us that are in the larger political parties or that are members of the existing and ancient ruling class underestimate them, ignore them, and display disdain for their firm resolve and rising anger at our own peril. They regard them as being inconsequential and argue that they only exist on social media. I beg to differ. As I see them in the streets and I see them in the churches, I see them amongst my staff and amongst those that regard themselves as being amongst the oppressed and the downtrodden. I see them amongst the professionals and those that are bankers, lawyers, doctors, and artists. I see them in the Northwest, East, and South. I see them everywhere and not only on social media. The sooner those of us that are in the larger political parties get off our high horses, display a little humility, try and understand their mindset, reach out to them, take them more seriously, appreciate their anger, restore their hope, make the necessary concessions, and try and abate their rage and rising angst, the better it will be for us all. They may not have today, but if we do not play our cards right, they may end up having tomorrow. May God help us all. At least this guy acknowledges that, listen, amongst his own staff, the people that he works with, the people he pals around with, the people that smile at him every day are obedient people. They might say yes, sir, to him in the office, but when they go out there, they're going to support Peter Obi. He's humble, at least, to see those, and he's humble to say, listen, we need to engage these people and kind of like have some trade-offs and not just, try to relegate them to the background.
Do you think
I admire his humility and admire, the sense that he spoke.
do you think that the reason why FFK can see the truth while most of his other political friends cannot see the truth, or most of the people in power right now? Do you think it's because FFK is in need of some money now? He's broke, and he had to join back the APC that he said is darkness. Think about it. FFK has denounced the APC, so many times, calling them darkness, talking about how they are Islamic terrorists. Yes, he has said all those things about Buhari and APC, but now he's joined them because he's broke, and of course he's more humble because his eyes are, he's right, but his brothers who are maybe ministers now and chopping government money somewhere, they want to dismiss Obidients.
Reality.
Actually, kudos to him for being that humble. That's not the FFK I know. FFK I know would have doubled down on why Buhari is going to win for sure. Well, I mean, Tinubu is going to win for sure. The FFK I know would have doubled down on just what he's trying to gain. But this time around, he really said the truth. And there's something also about obedience. The support and the excitement is contagious. People can hardly hold themselves. I mean, have you seen clips of churches? Have you seen in churches? Have you seen on the streets? Okay, look at the NBA conference that was held last week. All those guys lost their home training, lawyers of repute, because there is just something different. I mean, it's hard to see this happen, right? In an NBA conference, let's be honest, it's hard to see, let's say when Goodluck Jonathan even was in power, he goes there, we won't see people farming with him that way. So that support is, is strong, is emotional. People can hardly contain themselves. And it is happening, again, let me reference about P2B is very smart because you can see that he's been going around the diaspora, talking to Nigerians. People will say, most of those people are not going to vote. They're in Toronto, they're in Frankfurt, right? But think about it. Most of these people are the people who are donating to his campaign. Most of these people are people who can influence their brothers and sisters by talking to them and educating them, whether it's on WhatsApp or Facebook, to chat with their brothers and say, look, this guy, this is why he's different from a Tinubu or an Atiku. So this guy is very smart. I mean, again, if I look at him, I used to see him as this baby, innocent, naive guy. But thinking about it now, P2B is very smart. He's doing the work, he's putting in the work. I used to accuse him in my mind of not doing enough, of not being aggressive, but you can see that he's spreading that fever. I watched 2 clips yesterday. One was in Frankfurt when somebody who's from Anambra State, who is now a lecturer, talked about how he gave him some scholarship and also some funding to go to a conference. And from that conference, he now got an opportunity to go and do his master's and PhD, and P2B also gave him more funding for that. Then the second guy again in Vatican City, who met him last night, talked about how he also gave him 1 million naira as one of 160 people that won scholarship from him. So people are coming out, these are diaspora people, these are people outside the country, but you can see that some people like that are willing to fly down back home, register and vote for him too, and influence people. That's even the truth. So FFK is very right. And the most dangerous thing that he has highlighted here is actually the fact that even after P2B is gone, win or lose, these people now understand that there is a third way of politicking, which is not the one, Ghana must go sharing, or we must have governors and have people donating from, the way APC is doing it now, both APC and PDP. You are buying forms for 100 million naira. It's just a way to pool funds, a war chest to, either bribe the structure or whatever. But P2B didn't have any of that, right? But that organic movement even made Labour Party realize that and smartly put him, let him go, move on to the ballot. So again, kudos to Labour Party. If Labour Party folks were very selfish, they would have made sure that somebody like, say, Pat Otomi or Donyo Okube must have been the vice president or something. But they let P2B also choose somebody who had a decent record without too much baggage. So this movement is gaining traction. I don't know what's going to happen the next cycle. I don't know who's going to win this election, but the Obidients will still transform to something else. that is within their principles, and and they're likely to keep, keeping strong on that. So my 2 cents is it was a big mistake of PDP to have tried to discard Peter Obi's ambitions, and when they saw his teaming support.
I'm gonna just add. I mean, both of you have spoken extensively on these issues, but I just have something to. I think. I mean, Kayode is an Oxford or Cambridge scholar. I mean, he's well exposed scholarly, so I wouldn't expect him. I would expect him to, express his views intellectually, but that doesn't expressing your views intellectually doesn't define authenticity, or it doesn't say how genuine you are. Even in my own opinion, there is a popular quote that I used to like from Edmund Burke. Edmund Burke wrote about the French Revolution. He says, it is a general popular error to suppose or to imagine the loudest complainers for the public to be the most anxious of its welfare. I'm going to repeat that. It is a general popular error to suppose or imagine the loudest complainants of the public to be the most anxious of its welfare. What it's saying is that not everyone who says hallelujah or praise the Lord is actually, just like the way the Bible says, not all who call me Father, Father will see the kingdom. Fani Kayode has reflected, his views based on what he could see happening. I mean, everyone, what he's written is what many know, few deny, but denying it doesn't preclude its factual existence. But imagining that Fani Kayode is writing this from a place of authenticity is something I also differ. And why am I saying this? He plays the devil's advocate. It's like Dino Melayo. When it's good for him, he presents himself like an activist. When it doesn't, he presents himself like when he presents like a man of the people, he who fights for the poor. But he's living larger than life. He's dining with the classical politicians, looting, and just think about it. So I would be naive myself to take Fani Kayode seriously, but I do not preclude the facts of the power of his pen. I think he has reflected, factually what is happening in the society. But I don't think he is saying this because there is the genuine conviction that um, uh, you know uh, that he's a good person, or that he understands the feelings and yearnings of this generation. He doesn't. Fani Kayode, from those who he has served, for example, Obasanjo was his principal at some point. Obasanjo has come out clearly, said, I know this guy. This is the kind of person this is. I mean, your boss will be able to referee you. And his boss has at different points has said, this is my, this is how I perceive this guy. If I have to referee him, this is what I will write about him. He looks, where he looks at the highest bidder and he eats from you. That is what he is. So, I'm not trying. What I'm trying to say here, it may sound that I'm not trying to beat about the bush. I'm trying to say that Fani Kayode's writing reflects a genuine aspiration of people. It reflects the righteous anger of the Ensign's generation who had decided to explore and exploit a different avenue to seeking justice for those whose blood is crying at the Ensign's massacre. This is what it is. Largely, it's about justice. It's about a paradigm shift from establishment politics. And establishment politics has not availed much for the Nigerian populace, and we can see that. And there is a yearning, genuine aspiration to change this dynamic because we deserve better. We have the capacity, we have the resources, we have all it takes to go beyond this scale, to go beyond where we are today. So why not, use the fullest resources you have to take yourself to higher grounds? Why not? Because those who are predating on the economic blood of the country will not benefit if the status quo changes. And that is why they are doing everything to maintain status quo. Think about those endorsing Tinubu in Rivers State, people like Asari people. Just think about it for a moment. Think about those who are endorsing at P2B. Think about it for a moment. Think about it. So I think Fani Kayode he's playing the devil's advocate. I genuinely do not take him seriously, but I do absolutely agree with what he has bent down because he has presented facts. Facts are incontrovertible. You can't controvert facts because they are there. You can verify them. But do I take him seriously? Absolutely do not take him seriously. Do I think he's genuine? Of course not. I do not take him to be genuine. This is a man who has said unprintable things about APC. But here he is today, dining with them, wearing the devil's gold ring, because they are paying the piper and they dictate the tune. So I think, this is an idea whose time has come, And ideas at last, structures at last, people, as he has also rightly mentioned in his piece. And I think the Nigerian people, P2B has changed perception of politics. He's even making mainstream politicians to go beyond buying roasted corns on the road to, pushing out ideas, trying to come up with real stuff on how to politic. It was before people coming doing, he has changed the paradigm. Now people are beginning to look at real stuff. And I think even if P2B doesn't win, P2B has printed his name. And I hope and I wish and I will keep, hoping and, doing everything I can to support his image, because I see him to be credible. I see him to be the person who can improve the lot of Nigeria. I'm not saying he's going to transmogrify or he's going to, overnight he's going to transform Nigeria. I'm not saying he's not a magician, but I think he has ideas that would translate us from this value of poverty, value of ignorance, value of destitute to a place, to a higher ground. I think because he has a history, he has done it. If even the Bible, if it's going to go by, said, if you could do little with what you've given, if you're given more, you will do more. This is what the Bible said. The person who was given one did not do anything. He took it away from him. P2B has produced 4 from the 2 given to him. I think if P2B is given 4, he will produce 8. I see him replicating what he's done and even more. And thinking about those who are working with P2B are people I respect, people like Otomi. These are people I respect, who have ideas, who are not just classical politics, people who have ideas. And as Mosquito said, P2B has, he's selling his ideas to Nigerians in diaspora, and it also shows you how he values diasporans and how he could tap from those resources if or when he becomes the president. Having aired our views and opinions in light of what has happened this week and in the past week, I want us to adjourn this meeting until next time when we convene. This meeting is adjourned.